Hello and welcome into Big Ten Today. Thrilled to have you here alongside Rayfel Davis. I'm Kylan Mills. A lot going on to kick off 2025, including two Big Ten teams still playing for a national championship in football. We're going to hear from Ohio State head coach Ryan Day in just a couple minutes in Columbus. First, though, a lot of Thursday night action going on the hardwood, Rayfel, and a couple of surprising results, one might say.
Just when I thought I was figuring out this league, I thought I had a favorite in Maryland. Maryland goes to Washington, takes a bad loss, and then you look at Illinois going on the road. It's hard to win on the road in this league. They made it look easy, winning by 32 at Oregon. The Fighting Illini are cooking with gas. Those boys are dangerous.
Did we jinx Maryland by saying they're the best team in the Big Ten on Sunday? Maybe.
No, they just got to be better on the road.
I'm a little stitious. I'm not superstitious. I'm a little stitious, in the words of Michael Scott. But a big win for the Illini, and that is our big story on Big Ten today. 22nd ranked Illinois took down 9th ranked Oregon with a scoring barrage in Eugene. The Illini shot more than 57% from the floor and more than 55% from three-point land, while 6 players scored in double figures. Guard Trey White led the way with 20 points and 11 boards for the first double-double of the season for him. The Illini rolled the Ducks 109-77, their first 100-point effort on the road since 2016. Head coach Brad Underwood soaked it all in.
Never hung your head, show up every day. Give me reasons to want to play you. Tonight, you're talented, you're good, when it's the game. Built that whole league. Built that whole league. And you dunked the one like I would have dunked it.
Tell you what, Rayfel, Brad Underwood strikes me as the type of coach you want to run through a brick wall for. Well, how about the Illini? You say it's tough to win on the road in the Big Ten. They made it look easy. They just were slicing and dicing this Ducks defense.
And how about Ben Rickhouse? He could feel the pressure from the fans. He wasn't playing his best. He thought he maybe wasn't knocking down shots like he was expected. He had a big one on the road. 18 for the game, 14 in the second half. It just shows you how deep this Illinois squad is. You look at Jake Davis off the bench first half. Kasparis Jakašonis, he goes down with 2 fouls, have a couple players in foul trouble. Where do you go? Jake Davis delivers 12 points in 11 minutes in the first half. He was big time, knocking down shots at the rim, playing great off of that ball screen action, freeing himself up, knocking it down for the game. Illinois makes 16 threes. They got 20 assists, 48 points in the paint. They just can beat you in so many different ways. And to have this display on the road in a top 10 environment, it's just big time.
The balance for this Illinois offense makes them so potent. 6 players in double figures without Tomislav Ivisic scoring. He's the team's second leading scorer. He had just 8, so he was almost there in double figures. But on the other side for this Ducks team, this is a demoralizing loss. Where do they go from here?
They just got to be better. You look at their starting 5, you look at their guards and Tracy and Jackson Shelstad, they've got to play better. Jackson Shelstad was looked at as to be one of the better guards, not just in the conference, but across the country. He didn't have his best night against Illinois. 9 points. 4 for 11 from the field. It starts with him. He's got to set the tone early in basketball games, get his game on, but also he's got to get TJ Bamba going. He's got to get Brandon Angel going. He's got to get the big fella inside, Nate Biddle, going. A lot is on his shoulders, but we haven't seen the best of Oregon, I've been saying all season, because we haven't seen the best of Shelstad. When he gets his feet under him, when he gets rolling, this Oregon team is still going to be dangerous.
Well, the Big Ten doesn't get any easier for Oregon, too. Up next, they host Maryland, a team that may be looking to get right after the game they had last night. Let's switch gears to some football talk. We'll get back to hoops and Rayfel in just a bit. The 8th-seeded Ohio State Buckeyes have taken their play to a new level in the college football playoffs. The Buckeyes earned 2 dominant wins over Tennessee and top-seeded Oregon. They scored 83 points, racked up 973 total yards across those 2 games. Ohio State now shifts the focus to a date with 5th-seeded Texas in the Cotton Bowl. Head coach Ryan Day is speaking now in Columbus. Let's listen in.
Competing with each other, you can see the passion on the field when they get on the field. And I think the way that this format is and the way the playoffs are set now, it allows us an opportunity to grow as a team and to learn and to get better and to peak late in the season. And so I think we've learned a lot about our team. I think we've grown a lot as a team. And, we're banking on this to be our best football of the season. But these guys, they care a lot about each other. And we're just going to focus on the execution and making sure that, we're preparing ourselves as best as we possibly can to go play this game against these guys on Friday night. And that's it. Nothing else matters. I've said this before, nothing that's happened previously is going to have any effect on what's going on other than learning from our experiences. So we got to do a good job of starting from scratch again. And I think that's one of the things that our guys need to understand is that when you're playing in playoffs, it's almost like, seasons within themselves during that week. And that, you almost start from scratch, and you can go through and you say, okay, here's your opponent, here's your process, here are the walkthroughs, here are the meetings, here are the practices, here are all the things that come with preparing for a game like this to be at competitive excellence. And so we got to do a great job this late in the season of being disciplined to do a better job than Texas.
Coach, your next question is going to come from Tim May. Tim?
Can you hear me?
I can.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, man. The mute button was a weird place. Ryan, what is the biggest advancement that you've seen Will take from that new guy that walked in a year ago, basically, to being a leader? Like Justin Fry talked about how he stepped up as a leader when you've had those offensive line problems, et cetera, and just kind of, took them by the horns and said, this is not going to stop us and stuff. What just stands out most about him at this moment?
Well, I think even for somebody who's, experienced like he is and with his age, you still, you're at a different school, you're in a different program, you're in a different offense. And playing within the offense and being here now for the number of games that he's played, he's learned a lot about himself, but he's also learned a lot of the offense. He's grown into the offense. And I think he understands that his job is to be the number one leader on the team and on the field, and that the team is going to take on his personality. But in terms of the football on the field, I think he's done a great job off the field of grasping the concepts. He's put a lot of work in with Chip and with Billy. When the first couple words come out of a play, he can finish it for you. And that's when he knows exactly what's going on. He makes sure everybody's on the same page. When you're in the huddle, you can communicate a lot of information, situation, down, distance, score, all those things that come into play. And so, I think that's been important. I also think his footwork has improved. And I think when his footwork is on time and he's able to, time some things up in terms of his play actions and drop back passes, you're seeing him play, really good football, making good decisions and throwing the ball accurately.
Coach, your next question is going to come from Bill Rabinowitz. Bill, go ahead.
Hi, Ryan. Slow starts were kind of a problem for you during the regular season. Obviously not a problem in the playoff. You guys have gotten off to great starts both games. Has there been any extra point of emphasis on that? Is there anything you can point to explain why you guys have gotten off to the starts that you have, and how important has that been, obviously?
We've always wanted to have fast starts. I mean, we all know that. But I do think that, we've talked about, early in games, you want to set the tone for the game, as an individual, but also as a team, as a unit. Both games we've started off with the ball, and we've gone right down and scored. And so execution fuels emotion. And that certainly has a big part of it. They go together. And we've executed well on those first couple drives, and that's had a big part of it. Defensive got some 3-and-outs early in the game, and we've been able to jump on the last two opponents. But we also know that when we get into halftime, we got to go play in the second half. And, we didn't do a great job of handling the middle eight in this past game, and so we got to get that fixed. The issues are always there. You come out of a game like this, it's easy to say, well, everything was great. It wasn't great. There was a lot of things that we got to get better at if we're going to beat Texas. And so we got to make those adjustments coming out of the game. We got back here yesterday, got back on the film. It was a quick turnaround, but the guys did a great job getting in here, getting on the film. We kept our routine. And so, that's going to be the focus. But, we always want to get fast starts, but we know it's going to be 4 quarters. And, we got to come out of halftime. And I think that's the thing that, we talk about all the time. When you come into halftime, it's going to be one of 3 things. You're leading, it's tied, or you're losing. And then how do you, figure out how you're going to go adapt in the second half to go win the game.
Thank you.
Coach, your next question is going to come from Kenneth Berry. Kenneth, go ahead.
Good morning, Coach. Just in regards to, obviously, a lot's changed in a year. Obviously, Cotton Bowl appearance
Some other football news to touch on. Former Purdue head football coach Ryan Walters has found a new landing spot. Walters has been hired as Washington's defensive coordinator, the school just announced today. The former DC of Jed Fish's staff, Stephen Belichick, left the program to join his father Bill at North Carolina. The move comes less than a month after Walters was fired by Purdue following a 5-19 mark across 2 seasons leading the Boilermakers program. Time for some more basketball talk on Big Ten today. Penn State survived Northwestern on Thursday night after a bizarre finish. A game that featured 14 lead changes, 7 ties, and a combined 33 turnovers came down to the final seconds. This is what you're watching here. The Wildcats trailed by 2 with 6 to go. It looked like an easy tap-in to tie it, but the whistle blew moments before, nullifying the basket. The whistle was for goaltending, but after a review, it was determined there was no infraction, so it was called an inadvertent whistle. The Wildcats got the ball back on the baseline, but turned it over. Chris Collins can't believe it. Penn State won at 84-80, the final. Just a heartbreaking finish, Rafael, for the Wildcats, and just a bizarre sequence there. First, what was your reaction to how that all transpired?
During the game, when I watched the replay, I thought it was a goaltend, but shout out to Terry Weimer. He let us know, he straightened us out last night that basketball was in an imaginary cylinder up to the ceiling. And when the ball is not in the rim, on the rim, I guess you can go up there and touch that rim. It just did not go Northwestern's way down the stretch. But Penn State, they did all of the necessary things to win this basketball game, especially the last 5 minutes. Because in the game, you turn the ball over 17 times, you get out-rebounded, you go 4-15 from the three-point line. How do you come away with the Big Ten Conference win? And Penn State showed us why. Ace Baldwin was great, 17-7, although he struggled from the field, had 6 turnovers. He was solid last 5 minutes of the game, setting the table for guys, getting this game on. Penn State finishes the last 5 minutes, 4 of 6 from the field. Northwestern finishes the last 5 minutes, 1 of 8 from the field. That point guard play was on full display to finish it.
That's the thing that shouldn't be overlooked, despite the call, is the fact that Penn State did play well down the stretch and did enough to win. You talked about the defense, also the offense. Nick Kern and Zach Hicks both made a couple of big buckets down the stretch. How critical were their contributions?
Oh, big time. I mean, Zach Hicks going for 20 for the game, making 5 threes. You can see the development of these guys this offseason. A lot of teams, you bring in transfers, you bring in guys to kind of fit roles. This Penn State squad, they just got back to work. Zach Hicks has increased his game. Nick Kern has evolved his game offensively. Freddie Dilion really showed his value in this one and why Coach Rose brought him in, because they needed a secondary ball handler to go along with Ace Baldwin in the backcourt, but they also needed another perimeter defender that can cause some havoc, increase pace, get out in transition and make some baskets. This Penn State team is for real. And don't forget about Niederhauser, the big guy inside. He had 9 and 9 to go along with 3 blocks. The Penn State team is for real. They're tough. They're physical, because they also won this game because they made 36 free throws. They shot 45. So when the ball isn't going in for you, they have guys that can get second chance. They have guys that can get out in transition off of turnovers. And at the end of the day, Ace Baldwin, the best point guard in this league, is going to find a way to win games on both ends of the floor, because he had Jalen Leach in a blender. I mean, Jalen Leach could do nothing. 8 points, 2 of 5 from the field, 5 turnovers. Ace Baldwin put it on full display last night.
Northwestern also is a team that's typically really good defensively. They turn the ball over quite a bit more than their average. What do you take away if you're the Wildcats?
You just need better guard play. I mean, Brooks Barnhizer was outstanding. If the season ended today, Brooks Barnhizer would be my player of the year. You look at his stat line last night, 20 points, 11 rebounds, 8 assists, 3 steals, and a couple blocks. He just does it all over the floor. True Swiss Army knife. Nick Martinelli did his job, 18 and 5. But you need guard play, especially on the road in the Big Ten. Jalen Leach goes 2 of 5, 6 turnovers. And then you look at Ty Berry dealt with some foul trouble, only 3 points, 1 of 6 from the field. When your starting backcourt isn't producing at a high level on the road, especially against a team that's tough as Penn State, you're not going to win those games.
The tough thing for Northwestern is they face Purdue next, and this is a Boilers team that's coming off a huge win on Thursday night. They take down Minnesota by 20 points. This was a 1-point game at the half, Rafael, and somehow the Boilers just closed this out down the stretch. I'll tell you 2 names that made the difference. Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer, clutch time and time again. I know you've been calling for it.
Yeah, for sure. I've been in those locker rooms with Coach Painter, and it's a game where you expect to win that game, and it's not going how you want it to go. That paint starts to drip off that wall a little bit. You get that added motivation, and Braden Smith showed exactly why he's the preseason player of the year in this conference. I think their last game against Toledo, 34 points, 12 assists, 1 turnover. And this one, on the road in a tough environment at Minnesota, 20 points, 10 assists, 6 rebounds, 0 turnovers. Braden Smith happens to be the first player in Big Ten history to go his first 3 years, have 1,000 points, 500 assists, 400 rebounds. They need him to stay aggressive offensively. It opens up the floor for everyone else out there. When he comes off that ball screen and he's looking to get his game on, you're at his mercy. And then when Fletcher Lawyer is shooting the way he did, he goes for 24, 8 of 10 from the field. That's the Purdue backcourt we expected. That is the best backcourt that will be one of the best ones in the conference. And then Chaykoff and Wren chipped in. But then as we've all been calling for all season, they need a fourth guy to be productive. You think their last game and those 2 losses back-to-back, Miles Coleman didn't give him anything, Cam Heide didn't give him anything, but Caleb First in his first start this season coming in with 11.6 rebounds. That was big to go along with what Purdue wanted to do.
Purdue shot 33% from beyond the arc, and a big reason why was Braden Smith's ability to work in those ball screens. You go under, he's going to punish you, and he's going to pop from beyond the arc, and he's also so good at finding the roller, too. To me, that made a huge difference down the stretch for the Boilers. You touch on the turnovers already being a big thing, and then also that lineup change. Caleb First and C.J. Cox earning their first starts. What did you make of that switch?
I thought it was big time. I thought Caleb First came in and provided a toughness, a physicality that the Boilermakers have been missing this season, because I've been saying they've been getting punked on the glass, and I can say that because I'm an alum and I'm in that locker room, and the guys know me. But you look at it. They got 10 offensive rebounds, 14 second chance points. Caleb First, his activity in there. Riley Burgess off the bench, their activity at the rim was big time, because if you're not going to score at a high level, you have to defend better, you have to rebound harder, and you got to take care of the basketball. Caleb First added that on the rim, and then you look at C.J. Cox at the guard position. Purdue with only 3 turnovers on the road, 21 assists. Having that secondary ball handler out there with Braden Smith does wonders for this program. You think last season it was Lance Jones, it was Braden Smith. Well, now you have C.J. Cox going along with Braden Smith. Fletcher Lawyer goes back to that shooter role where he's more comfortable. He's just asked to knock down shots, make plays off the bounce. It's just more of a continuity in their offense. Coach Painter wants to go with 2 guards, a shooter, a 4 guy that can do it all, and the big bruiser at the 5. And last night we got to see a glimpse of all of that.
Minnesota now 0-3 in Big Ten play. They were right in this ballgame at the half, which maybe is a frustrating thing for Ben Johnson's squad. Dawson Garcia pours in 20 points, but it doesn't seem like he has enough help around him. What do you take away, or is there anything that Minnesota can do moving forward to put themselves back in more competitive positions in the Big Ten? Yeah,
and I feel like I'm a broken record at this point, but it's all about the guard play. Mike Mitchell, a game ago, had his best game of the season, had 22 points in the game, was knocking down shots from deep, setting everybody up on the field. But you think about this one, 4 points, 2 of 10 from the field. He's got to be better. If Mike Mitchell isn't at his best, Minnesota's not going to win a bunch of games. It can't just be Dawson Garcia. Those 2 guys have to be a 2-headed monster, no doubt about it.
Rolling through another Thursday night matchup, Indiana takes down Rutgers by 10 in Bloomington. Rutgers without their star and leading scorer, Dylan Harper. However, the Hoosiers also lost Malik Renew, their leading scorer, to a lower leg injury in about the first minute. Indiana closed the first half on a 17-5 run. They opened the second half on a 15-4 run to provide that separation. Yeah. What was clicking for the Hoosiers during that time?
They were playing harder. They were playing defense. And I know Ace Bailey goes for 39, but no one else on that squad had anything going for Rutgers. Their defense was better. Their energy was better. Their fight was better. They won the play hard categories. And that's what I've been calling for the Hoosiers all season long, because they've heard the noise. Everyone's telling them they're the most talented team in this league. But that does not matter if you're going to play soft. I love what they were able to do. They won a turnover battle. They won a rebound war. They dominated the paint. And that's what it takes. Only 8 turnovers, 19 points off of turnovers. And they had 18 offensive rebounds, which led to 34 second chance points. And I'm not a guy that's going to question Coach Woodson. I know everybody wanted him to talk about why Oumar Ballo didn't play last game. I don't care. It worked. He came off the bench, 17 points, 12 rebounds, 3 blocks. I think Coach may be able to bench him every other game if he's going to perform this way. But no, I think the Hoosiers right now, they were cooking last night, and then they made the most threes they've made all season. They made 12 of them. If they can continue this on with the fight category, with the play hard category, then that talent will start to shine through and then start winning more games.
Well, you hope you don't have to bench Oumar Ballo every other night in order to get him to play that way, Rafael. But as he brought up the offensive glass, that's immediately where my mind went. Ballo with 7 offensive boards. How did you see him impact this game?
He just played harder. He just played with a chip on his shoulder. He was aggressive. That shot went up. He crashed that glass. You could see Coach Woodson really got to him, whether if it was his words, whether if it was him benching him last game, coming off the bench in this one. But Oumar Ballo was ready from the word go. He crashed that glass every single time. He was better in ball screen defense, just better activity around the basket. They need this version of Oumar Ballo every night out. It can't just be after I'm benched or after I don't play the minutes I want to play or I'm mad at coach. You got to have this focus in this fight every night out because the team start to bleed in it. You think of Mackenzie Mbako, last game had 1 rebound, and this one he gets 7. And I think Umar Ballo setting that tone, bled to Mackenzie Mbako, which bled to Miles Rice, which bled to Galloway, which bled to Luke Goody. It starts with playing hard, and for this team, they need their warriors, their big guys, to play as hard as they can. And this is the first time I've seen Indiana put together for 40 minutes.
I want to talk about a silver lining for this Rutgers team, and that's freshman Ace Bailey going for 39 points, the first Division I freshman this season to put up those kinds of numbers. Why is he such a special player and talent?
He just can score the ball all over the floor in a variety of ways. He goes 4 from 8 from deep. He has that pretty soft mid-range game. He gets to that turnaround. He gets you to the block and has a great post-up game at 6'10". And then that basketball comes off the rim. Ace Bailey, he's crashing the glass trying to fight for second chance opportunities. He took 29 shots. The rest of his teammates combined took 32. So you can understand how good they know he is, how good Coach Pikel knows he is, because he is a walking bucket. He can score the ball with his eyes closed. You get him playing this way. Maybe it's not going to be 39 every game, but you get him being productive, being aggressive. You get Dylan Harper back. They get a third scorer in Piscataway, someone that can give them double digits night in and night out. It could be a different guy. That's when we're going to see Rutgers at his best. But Ace Bailey, I mean, he was unbelievable last night. They lost the game, and I still want to see a highlight clip of Ace Bailey.
The Scarlet Knights came into the season a top 25 team. You've got 2 NBA lottery picks on this roster. They're 8-6 now, 1-2 in Big Ten play. What's been missing?
A third scorer. And I know Jeremiah Williams, he's dealing with some injuries. You bring in Tyson Acuff. Tyson Acuff scored 22 points a game at Eastern Michigan last season. Came this summer, had some injuries, still fighting through it. You got P.J. Hayes, you got Zach Martini. Those guys got to make shots. Those guys have got to provide space. And I think just Rutgers, they got to have that third guy to score the ball, but then they got to have someone inside fighting on that glass. Emmanuel Bole, Zach Martini, P.J. Hayes, they got to get some fight because there's no way, there's no arena you can go in this conference, give up 18 offensive rebounds and expect to win that game. You look at Coach Pikel, you look at what they're known for in Piscataway, it's toughness, it's defense, it's rebounding, and those 3 categories they haven't had to go along with not having a guy that can score the ball, to go along with Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey. They're struggling right now. It's a long season left. I think Jeremiah Williams can still be that guy for them, but they're going to have some fight. They're going to have to rebound better. Emmanuel Bole, he's got to be better, but Zach Martini, P.J. Hayes, they got to give him something. Rather if it's scoring the ball, toughness on the glass, they've got to produce a little bit.
Rutgers next faces Wisconsin on Monday. They're going to be tested in that matchup. One last Thursday night matchup to touch on, and this was maybe my favorite game of the night, Rafael, because it was such a surprise. It was so competitive. Washington stuns Maryland 75-69, the first Big Ten win for the Huskies. This was a close game throughout. These two teams pretty even in a lot of the statistical categories. What do you feel like was the difference down the stretch of this one?
A great Osibor was great. And he was Andy Katz. He was his preseason player of the year.
I know, Andy. I was going to say, I heard Andy saying that last night.
The great Osibor, he goes for 20 points, 14 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals. He just did it all. He took the fight right to Julian Reese and Derek Queen, understanding that the country is saying Maryland has the best front court in the country. Derek Queen's going to be a first-round draft pick. Great Osibor did not care. He was unbelievable. This was his first 20-point game since going all the way back to November 17th. So you can see how amped up and ready he was for this one. He's got to stay this good. He's got to be productive at a high level every night out. 14-8 is not good enough for great Osibor. He's got to be 18 to 20 points a night, 14 to 15 rebounds, and really set the tone. And then I think their freshman, Zoom Diallo, unbelievable. He played 29 minutes in the game, and he was sensational off the bench. 18 points, 6 assists, 5 rebounds, just did it all. Took the fight right to those Maryland guards. And that's what Washington's been missing this season. You go back to that Seattle loss, their backcourt just simply struggled. You look at DJ Davis, Makai Mason, they go 3 of 18 from the field, 1 of 14 from the three-point line, only score you 7 points. That's just not good enough for a college backcourt when you want to win Division I basketball games. Zoom Diallo was the answer. He was big time, and I loved how Coach Sprinkle left him in the game because you see so many college coaches when they get to 5-6 minutes left in the game, it's tight. They're going to go back with the seniors. They're going to go back with the juniors. Go with your vets. Go with your starters. He kept a young feel in the game, and Washington really benefited from it. I think Zoom Diallo was awesome, and then DJ Davis off the bench started a couple games ago, struggling as of late. He gave him 15, knocked down 3 threes, made all of his free throws, and that's the difference in the game. And you think about how to win Big Ten games down the stretch. You get stops, you take care of the ball, you make your free throws, and the Huskies did all of that.
The sixth man for the Huskies also was that crowd in Alaska Airlines Arena. They were fantastic. You could hear them through the broadcast. It was a fantastic atmosphere there for this game, making it very difficult for the Terps as they fall to Washington. Now for Maryland, Derek Queen struggled, dealt with foul trouble all night. Their freshman who's been leading the charge for them. 5 points total in this game. As a freshman, what do you take away from this as a learning experience that you can utilize moving forward? Or maybe what's the message to him after this type of performance?
Life on the road in the Big Ten. You can see Derek Queen in that first half. He picked up a couple offensive fouls. He picked up some fouls. And his first instinct was to look at the ref and complain to the ref and ask the ref what I did. You can't do that in the Big Ten, especially on the road, because the refs don't care. They called the foul, you got to move on. And you can see that frustrating Derek Queen because you look at the box score, he's not going to score maybe 20 every night. But 4 points, 1 of 7 from the field. I can understand the offensive night where it didn't go your way. But you play 17 minutes, you're 6'10", 250. You got to have more than 1 rebound on the road. That just showed me that Derek Queen was playing through his offense. The referees were frustrating him a little bit. The size of Gray Osobor was getting to his head some because that one of the better rebounders in the country and in this conference. You look at Julian Reese and Derek Queen coming away with 1 rebound. That's not going to win them games. And then Jacoby Gillespie, true road game in the Big Ten. This is, you're no longer at Belmont. You can see the crowd kind of rile him a little bit. But when your point guard goes 0 for 6 from the field, turns it over 3 times, only scored 1 point, that's just not going to win you Big Ten road games. Selton Miguel didn't have it going. Rodney Rice didn't have it going. You need guard play. You need your studs to be your studs. And it just didn't go Maryland's way last night.
The one player that I actually think could be the X factor for the Terps is guard Selton Miguel. He finished with 12 points. Only 1 made 3, and that's what we've talked about a lot in his game is his ability to knock down the deep ball. But I also saw him attacking on the bounce, closeouts. He was finding different ways to score, even though the 3 ball wasn't falling, and that could be huge for him and this Terps team moving forward.
Having a hard time getting it to anybody. Got it to Thornton. Bruce Thornton ahead. Potter at the buzzer. Got it! Oh! The 17-game losing streak on the road comes to an end.
Jake Diebler fired up after a huge Ohio State win last February, 70-67, the final as they took down Michigan State. These two teams meeting again tonight. Maybe we'll see more of the same. The Spartans ranked 18th coming into this one, and Michigan State has won 6 straight. They're getting back to that Tom Izzo basketball, defending, rebounding, and running. Starting with the Spartans, what do you want to see from them in this one?
Yeah, starting with the Spartans, I'm back drinking that Tom Izzo Kool-Aid. Because like you said, they're back to it. They're running, they're defending, they're rebounding. A tough, hard-nosed brand of basketball, and it is so fun to watch. I am looking to see how Michigan State, how do they handle Bruce Thornton? Bruce Thornton is on a heater. Last 2 games, he's had 30 points in both of them. His ability to get downhill, keep control of the offense, set the pace, set the tone, knock down shots from deep is special. But now also look at the Buckeyes. I look at Quez Glover's 3rd game back from injury. He does a wonderful job, a masterful job of coming in, playing that secondary point guard role, setting the table for Bruce Thornton. So starting the game, Bruce Thornton, he has that ball in his hands. He's making plays. And then around that 14, 15-minute mark, Quez comes in the game, and now he's the point guard. Bruce Thornton moves over to your 2, and he's lighting you up from the perimeter. So Michigan State, they have enough defenders to throw at Bruce Thornton, from Jeremy Fears to Trey Holloman and Jaden Akins. I think they have enough guys. That's going to be cat and mouse. You stop Bruce Thornton, you win that game. But I love what Michigan State's been doing as of late.
Ohio State, one of the hottest three-point shooting teams in the country to start off the season. They've cooled off a little bit, but you look back at the win over Kentucky, their last couple of victories, they've been finding other ways to score. What's the right balance you want to see from this Buckeyes offense?
I want to see them keep developing that interior presence. You look at their last game, Aaron Bradshaw, he came out with 13 points. We saw Devin Royal go for 30 in the game because that's been their kryptonite. You look at that Kentucky game, they win by 20, but you look at how they did it. It was a guards game. It was a guards-driven game on both sides. Kentucky didn't have a guy that they were throwing that basketball into inside. And Michigan State, they're going to pound it in there. So for Ohio State, if their big guys, if their interior presence isn't ready for tonight, Xavier Booker's going to have a field day. Jackson Kohler's going to get his game on with that great footwork. That's going to be the deal for Ohio State. Those big fellas, they've got to come to play. It can't just be all on Junie Mobley, Bruce Thornton, and Quez Glover. The big fellas got to do their work, because I look at this Michigan State team, only one guy scoring in double figures. They beat you in so many different ways. They scored 39 of their points off the bench, leading the country. They're leading the country in fast break points. They're going to get this thing up and down. So those big guys inside have to really control and anchor the paint and slow this thing down and make it a half-court game for the Buckeyes.
Michigan State with 10 players averaging 4+ points on this team, multiple players averaging around 20 minutes per game. Going to throw a curveball at you here. Who could be the X factor in this game?
Cohen Carr. I'm saying Cohen Carr.
You're always ready, Raphael. I can never get you off guard, man.
Cohen Carr on that offensive glass, when that shot goes up, he is crashing. You look at Ohio State, they don't box out. Sometimes they just run to the rim and they jump. And Aaron Bradshaw, Sean Stewart, Evan Mahaffey, they depend on their athleticism at time. And if you're dependent on your athleticism against the most athletic guy in this league, you're going to lose that battle. So I'm expecting Cohen Carr to go out there, crash the glass, hang on rims. He's knocking down threes now, but his ability to get out in transition and push the pace as a wing running the floor and going finish it at the rim, it is demoralizing to opponents. I love what Cohen Carr is putting together in this year's campaign. I think he's the X factor. He's got Michigan State back to that toughness. You think all the great teams that Tom Izzo's had, the best ones, they've had that athletic wing. You think back to my career, that Final Four team, it was Brandon Dawson. Junkyard dog, fight you, punk you, knock down shots, finish at the basket, and that's who Cohen Carr is this season.
Zooming out to look at Ohio State, the first year under head coach Jake Diebler. Yes, they went on a great run to close out last season, but sometimes with an interim head coach, there's emotions, there are different things at play. What do you feel like is the most effective identity for the Buckeyes under Jake Diebler?
Defense. It's got to be their defense. I'm all defense. But
yeah, you don't say. Former Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year.
You think about how they beat Kentucky. You go back to it. Yeah, Bruce Thornton goes for 33. Yeah, they score a bunch of points. But they held Kentucky to under 70 points in the game and 30% from the field. When they decide to lock up on the perimeter, shut that water off, it gives them a chance. And then inside, Aaron Bradshaw protecting that rim. It's got to be on the defensive end for the Buckeyes. They're super talented offensively, but if they don't guard, they won't win a bunch of games, and I think they understand that now.
Michigan State and Ohio State going toe-to-toe. Maybe some extra emotions after the way that game finished off last season. Also extra emotions when it comes to a border battle rivalry. There's nothing like it. How about this one that dates back to 1909? Tonight, Wisconsin and Iowa meet for the 176th time. That's right. The Badgers with a 3-game advantage in the series. The game will be played in front of a sold-out crowd at the Kohl Center in Madison. The Badgers have won the last 3 straight against the Hawkeyes on their home floor. First of all, I want to start off with the feel of a border battle rivalry. As someone who's been in these situations, like how amped up is it? Yes, it's the regular season, but still, there's a little bit something extra at stake when there's pride on the line.
Oh, yeah, it's big time. I can remember finishing last place in this league at Purdue, and in that Indiana game that season, all records went out of the window. They were bad, we were bad. The crowd did not care. It's all about that game. You got to play with pride. I can remember Coach Painter having former Purdue guys call in and leave us voicemails about how serious that Indiana game is. And it's the same way with this Iowa-Wisconsin game. You've got to go out there, play for your state, play for that pride, try to come away with a hard-nosed victory, because these games are always tough. They're always down to the end. And then I look at Wisconsin. In order for them to get back going, they need John Tonje to play well. If you're going to win the league, you're going to compete to go to the NCAA tournament, you need your studs to be at their best all season long. And John Tonje's hit a little bit of a rut. Over the last 3 games, he's just been struggling. 11 points a game, down from 20. He's at 31% from the field, and has only taken 4 free throws per game over the last 3, and that's just not who John Tonje is. They can get John Tonje back going, getting downhill, getting to that mid-range, knocking down some shots, getting out in transition, finishing at the rim. That's when Wisconsin is at their best. I know Nolan Winter has been balling. Nolan Winter averaging 19 points, 8 rebounds over the last 2. Stephen Crowell is being more aggressive. We know what we get from John Blackwell and Max Klesmit, but John Tonje has got to be the guy that he was early on this season when Wisconsin started to make that big run. Last 3 games, he struggled. Last 3 games, they've lost. He's got to be the best that he can be.
A pretty big injury update for the Iowa Hawkeyes, and their leading scorer, Owen Freeman, did not play last game dealing with an ankle injury. He is expected to be available for this one against Wisconsin, the team's leading scorer, the reigning Big Ten Freshman of the Year. What type of impact does he have?
He just makes the life easier for his teammates. He's a guy that you can throw the ball down to Owen Freeman on that block. He's going to make the right decision. He's going to score it if he's one-on-one, can finish it over both shoulders. If he sees that double, he does a great job of kicking it out and causing the defense to get in rotations. He is a cog on both ends of the floor because defensively, he protects the rim. He blocks shots. He rebounds at a high level. They need Owen Freeman to be at his best when you go on the road to Wisconsin because he's just going to open up the game for Peyton Sandfort. And I think Peyton Sandfort is starting to come into his own this season. These last couple games didn't start it how he wanted to after the start this season, but over the last two, averaging 18 points, 7 rebounds. He's made 4 threes per contest. If they can get aggressive Owen Freeman on that block, forcing Wisconsin to double him, and you get that kick out to Payne Sandfort, he's knocking down shots. I love what he's been doing when those shots aren't falling. He's driving to the basket, finishing at the rim. And I think the development of Brock Harding has been not talked about enough. Brock Harding has been big time for the Hawkeyes, just setting the table, controlling the pace of the games, being a fighter defensively. You get Brock Harding, you get Payne Sandfort making some shots, you get Owen Freeman being there. Owen Freeman, we know he can be on that block. This Iowa team is dangerous. It's going to be a fun matchup. I think it's going to come down Owen Freeman, Steven Crowell, which one of those guys can win out on that block, and then who can flip the matchup? Will Nolan Winter, will he post up Payne Sandfort? Will he take advantage of him inside? Will he win that matchup? Or will Payne Sandfort force Nolan Winter to the bench with his ability to move without the basketball, making Nolan Winter run around all those screens? That's going to be the count mouse game. That 4 position, knowing Iowa plays small, Wisconsin plays with those 2 7-footers, Will wins out.
Who controls the pace of this game
Yes.
could also dictate who wins because Iowa, a team that wants to get out and run, Wisconsin a little bit better at working in the half court. That's something to keep an eye on as those 2 teams tip off at 7 p.m. Eastern tonight. We've got a jam-packed weekend of men's and women's hoops ahead, a total of 12 games across Fox, the Big Ten Network, and BTN Plus. On the women's side, a top 25 showdown between Maryland and Iowa, one to keep an eye on, plus top-ranked UCLA, 4th-ranked USC in action. I know Ray Fell, big fan of Juju Watkins. On the men's side, 15th-ranked UCLA facing a Big Ten road test. 22nd-ranked Illinois looks to keep the good times rolling at Washington after a dominant win over Oregon. Penn State taking on Indiana at the Palestra here on the Big Ten Network at 12 p.m. Eastern on Sunday. One of college basketball's most historic, most iconic venues. First of all, how does that change the dynamic, the fact that these 2 teams are tipping off in Philly?
It changes things for Penn State, just being in a different place, being in a different environment. The fans are going to be jacked up. It's a smaller gym, so it's going to be more fans feeling like they're on top of you. For Indiana, it's just another road trip. But I look at this Penn State team coming off a good win over Northwestern. They didn't play their best. They turned the ball over 17 times. They go 4-15 from the three-point line. So although they had a great win, they're still back to the drawing board trying to fix some things. So they're going to come out and fight. And for Indiana, I think this is the game that's going to show us how tough they are. Because like I said earlier, we've known them as the most talented team in this league, but talent means nothing when you're going up to face Nick Kern, Ace Baldwin, Dillion, DeMarco Dunn, and those guys where all they do is fight with their toughness. So I think toughness is going to win out in this one. Who can control the glass? Who can have fewer turnovers? Who can win the paint battle? But I look at Omar Ballo with his 17 and 12 3 blocks, and I look at Yannick Koenig-Niederhauser. That is going to be the game. Who can win the battle inside? Yannick Koenig-Niederhauser, he's had his best games of this season against mid-major talent. He's going to have to bring his hard hat, battle Umar Ballo inside, because this one isn't going to be about who makes the most threes, who can score the most points. This is going to be a toughness. This is going to be a fight. And Penn State, Indiana, whoever sets that tone early in those first 4 minutes, I think is going to win out.
When you talk about toughness, Penn State's press, incredibly tough. Their defense just stifling. You look at this Indiana team, they've been a little bit loose with the basketball. How do they calm themselves down? And, who's the player you're looking to maintain composure amongst the group?
It's got to be Miles Rice. You go on the road, you play against Ace Baldwin, you've got to take care of that basketball, and it starts with your point guard. But I look at Miles Rice, he's not your traditional point guard. He's more of a 2-guard playing a point guard role. So we're going to see if he can handle that pressure of Ace Baldwin, Freddie Dillion in that full court pressure. Look at Trey Galloway. He's got to be good with the basketball. Cannon Carlisle's got to be able to handle it. Luke Goody got to be able to handle it some, because we saw it last night. Rather if it's Brooke Barnhizer, rather if it's Jalen Leach, Nick Martinelli, you turn your back against Penn State, they are coming for that double team, for those back taps. They are going to force you to play at their pace. They're forcing 17, 18 turnovers per game. If Indiana wants to come away with this win on the road, you got to take care of the basketball. You got to take good shots, because you take good shots, that sets your defense. It doesn't allow Penn State to run on you. It starts there with Indiana, and then they're guys, they're studs. You've got to play like it. Mackenzie Mbako cannot disappear. Umar Ballo has got to continue on this playing hard. Miles Rice had 20 last night. He's got to produce at a high level. They've got to beat this Penn State team with the little things, but also their guys got to come and show up on the road.
Indiana and Penn State both looking for second consecutive Big Ten wins. Meanwhile, Northwestern playing at 20th ranked Purdue right after that game wraps up here in the Big Ten Network. So tipping off at 2 p.m. Eastern. Purdue coming off a big win where we saw Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer really close it out strong down the stretch. How do they carry that momentum from the closeout of that game into the start of this one?
Again, it's got to be their fight, because all you think about it, yeah, Braden Smith, great game. Fletcher Lawyer, great game. But they had 3 turnovers against Minnesota. That's the game. You turn the ball over 3 times, you get plus 12 on the glass, 14 second chance points, 15 points off of turnovers. That was the deal at the barn in Minnesota. That's been Purdue's issue all season. They've turned it over too much, and they haven't found ways to steal baskets. They found ways last night to get out in transition. They found ways on the offensive glass. They've got to continue that on, and then they've got to defend at a much, much higher level, because you now have the 2 of the best teammates in the country in Nick Martinelli and Brooks Barnhizer, both of them averaging over 20 points a game. Who takes that matchup for Purdue? You look at the starting lineup right now, it looks as if it'll be Fletcher Lawyer, Trey Kaufman-Wren taking the head of that battle. If those 2 guys can defend at a high level, you get those guys to struggle. That's going to have to be the deal, because you look at Northwestern, look where they struggled against Penn State. It was Penn State's pressure. Purdue doesn't put that much pressure on you. And if you don't pressure Northwestern, they're going to pick you apart. They're going to take care of that basketball. They're going to get to their spots. They're going to get their matchups. So Purdue's deal is going to have to be about defense, rebounding, take care of the basketball, and you get those 2 guys out of rhythm. It's not stopping Brooks Barnhizer. It's not stopping Nick Martinelli. It's if they get 20, they take 18 to 19 shots to get it, and that'll be the deal for Purdue. Before Northwestern, you go into Mack Arena, you take care of the basketball, you fight on the glass. I think Luke Hunger, Nicholson will be big time in this one. They can dominate the boards, dominate the paint, and then you need Jalen Leach and Ty Berry to bounce back from the game at Penn State. You need those 2 guys to have some big ones on the road if you want to go and win at Mack Arena, one of the tougher environments in the country.
Northwestern's defense typically very sound. They leaked more points than usual against Penn State. I really feel like it's the Wildcats' defense that's going to set the tone for the team offensively.
Yeah, for sure, because sometimes your best offense is your defense. You can't run if you don't get stops. And you look at Northwestern, how they've been able to win games. They fight you. They force you to play in a half-court game. They switch their screens. They know what they're doing. They are all locked in on the scouting report. They don't have any mishaps when it comes to doing their job and handling their responsibilities. And you think about Northwestern, you go back to Zach Edey last season, when that basketball goes in the post, they are double-teaming every single time. So Trey Kaufman-Wren, he catch that ball on that block, he's got to expect to see 2. And we've seen games where Trey has had 4 turnovers, 5 turnovers, 6 turnovers, trying to pass out of those double teams. That can't happen against Northwestern. He's got to be able to get the ball out of that double, reverse it, find that open side on the backside, and put Northwestern into those rotations. Because if you kick it out of that double, it's pass, swing, and it's a wide open shot, or if it's a wide open drive. I think Purdue's got to play for that action on the backside, knowing Northwestern's going to post double every time.
Right, Phil, I don't think I've ever asked you, did you play any other sports besides basketball?
I did. I played baseball. I was terrible. I played 1 season of baseball. We lost every game but the last one in the playoffs. I was pretty good at football, though.
Well, that was going to be my segue into what we're teasing in our next segment ahead. As a 2-sport athlete, could you imagine playing baseball at Purdue in addition to basketball?
Oh, no, I could not.
Absolutely not. No.